Welcome, Professor Yohanan Petrovsky-Shtern at the Ukrainian Institute of Modern Art. We are thrilled to be hosting your exceptional exhibit, and we would love to hear from you some of your explanations of these exceptional works, especially as they relate now to what is going on with the tragedy of the war. And I am personally very moved by these works. Can you comment on them, please?
First, Marta, I would like to thank you and the president of the museum and the curators for allowing me to exhibit my work. Most of the things that we see here are created after the war, some of them after 2014, most of them after 2018, and there are also recent works that were created after the Russian invasion into Ukraine, direct invasion in February 2022. The war in Ukraine is my war. I'm fighting it in my own way, and the canvases or posters and canvases that I'm trying to create is my critical. I'm answering to the tragedy in Ukraine, to my classmates and fellow students who are in the front trenches, to my colleagues who are helping in the logistics, to my students who are sitting in the basements and taking courses that I'm teaching on Zoom. So it is not just about something which is there, it is something which hits quite, which hits home, which is very close to where we are and very close to my heart. I am reacting in my own way, trying not to get crazy, trying to keep my mind really calm and thinking about what I can do in this situation. One of the most important things for me, of course, is to be part of the fighting Ukraine, of those people who are trying to support Ukraine in many different ways. And of course, the tragedy that's happening there is my own tragedy. When I see children killed by Russian shelling and bombing in different towns and cities of Ukraine, from Odessa to Kharkiv, I cannot avoid thinking about a child who needs his mom and who have minutes to live. And that is the moment when I'm creating the artwork known as Child of War, which can signify many different things. When I'm bringing three different Ukrainians, a soldier, a person from the rear, and a young girl, and they are trying to lift the branch of red viburnum, Червона Калина, I'm showing Ukrainians who are trying to lift the branch of Червона Калина, яка похилилася, and the branch that they are trying to lift in order to make Ukraine rejoice again. It is one of the works which I see as part of the Confronting Catastrophe series, and this is a catastrophe, of course, of the expulsion from paradise. I'm exhibiting two figures. I'm showing Adam and Eve. Eve is already pregnant. They are banished from paradise, but paradise is not necessarily what we think paradise is. For me, paradise is Carpathian mountains covered with snow, and these are people who are banished from this kind of Ukrainian winter paradise into the arid air, into the arid soil that they are stepping on, and they do not know what they have to expect. But what they have, if you look at the details, Eve has in her basket the pomegranates, kind of a remembrance of the place from which they were banished. Of course, the biblical angelical sword, double-edged sword, which is mentioned as something that separates paradise from the rest of the world, is in the center of the picture. It is not necessarily seen momentarily, but you will see it if you step aside, and you'll see how the composition is organized. So this is my reaction to one of the first catastrophes. The expulsion from paradise is one of the first catastrophes, which I read as the expulsion from Ukraine. You can read it as the beginning of the exile, as the story about refugees.
Yohanan, I'd like to ask you about the obvious presence of both the Jewish and the Ukrainian culture and history in your paintings. And can you make a comment about that? Because obviously both peoples have been living together for over 1,000 years on the same land.
For many Ukrainians today, it's absolutely obvious that the war against them is a genocidal war. And many of them make direct parallels, talking, discussing, thinking about the war between what is going on today in Ukraine, the destruction of Ukrainian culture, and the destruction of Jews and Jewish culture during the Holocaust. The parallel between the Holocaust and the Ukrainian war became kind of a trope in many statements of political scientists, scholars, journalists, writers, and almost became inseparable part of the discourse. So for me, it was absolutely obvious for 10, 15 years that we are talking about the parallel narrative. The story about Ukrainians and Jews have more to share than people were thinking before. And I'm bringing different images, Ukrainian images connected to Ukrainian cultural traditions, to Ukrainian Christianity, and Judaic traditions, biblical references that have, of course, Jewish flavor. My Adam and Eve might be read as, the expulsion of paradise that you mentioned. They may be read as the Ukrainian theme, but also as a Jewish theme. Some of the paintings here have very significant Jewish subtext. For example, the painting that I call Lot and his wife, and I'm describing, portraying Lot and his wife who are leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, and of course, anybody who knows me would recognize in Lot my father, and in his wife my mother, and the Kremlin in flames behind them as Sodom and Gomorrah, which my parents are leaving. Of course, I'm telling the story of a Russian-speaking family very much oriented toward Russian culture that has to make a very difficult choice and turn their back to the imperialistic, aggressive country that they worshipped all their life, and to the culture that they need now to abandon, choosing something different.
And of course, we are all bewildered by the fact that the US Congress now is stalling help for Ukraine. And this reminds me of what you just mentioned, that people trying to impose capitulation at any cost just to stop the war. But we need peace, it's true, but it has to be peace with justice.
So that is one of the themes that I'm constantly discussing, the absence of justice, the absence of truth and values that we witness around us. And I'm thinking about this absence of ultimate truth in the world that we can point to and say, this is what we need to have. I'm thinking about that, taking Veronica's veil that was given to Jesus as he was going up Golgotha, and he pressed it to his face, and he gave the towel, this veil, back to Veronica, and it had his non-man-made image on it. So I'm taking this image and I'm ripping up Veronica's veil. And I'm asking a question. This is what is done today by everybody who says, Ukrainians stop fighting, Jews stop fighting, we should have peace. That lack of understanding is ripping the sense of justice. Do we have justice transpiring through this ripped will on us? Do we have this justice still pouring into the world, although the veil is destroyed? That is the question I'm asking when I'm creating the image that you have here on the exhibit.
These are the questions that are asked at this exhibit. So thank you very much for this interview, and thank you for coming to the Institute of Modern Art and for thinking of exhibiting here.
Thank you, the Ukrainian community that invited me to be here.